So when you say set up by a folder, can you give me some more of an explanation on that? So that way I know what you mean. Like, what is it you want to put in a folder?
We have like a folder that has
Thank you.
the assessments that we created for that
F10.
folder.
Okay, F10.
Alrighty, so let me go to dashboard. So you're talking about if you go and you customize your own assessment or assignment, is that what you're referring to?
In the my assessment, the other.
As of right now, that's not a function. It's something that you know we've mentioned. So as of right now, the answer on that is not yet. I'm anxious to see if they create a folder system because to me that would be a definite benefit to be able to help and allow you to organize based on module 1 or 2 or 3. Right now, that's not available.
Now, speaking of assessment, how do those all of those when we look at different class, all of those assessments stay?
Yeah, as you archive from year to year, it's easy to transfer that over. There's some simple directions that you can Google or that are in our DTS, but in our sales rep, our local sales rep can help with that too. But it's just basically I want to move everything from this class to next year. So that would be any resources that you've added, any created assignments will be pushed over from year to year. So therefore, you don't have to do that again. And it even allows you to dictate the calendar. So if you know that your calendar year is going to stay similar and you're going to follow a similar pace, then that calendar can be implemented as well. So that way, all those assignments are coming up about the exact same time they were the previous year.
Is that something that has this year or the beginning of next year?
I believe you could even, if they, let's say the district didn't do it, you can go back, you know, to the archive and push that forward. Shouldn't be it isn't a difficult process though. What else, what other questions do you have? I'm trying to think. So customize.
We would love to share. Like,
Yeah. Well, you bring up the sharing of assessments, and so that might even be the way around. All right, so I'll show you. Like you see, like this looks like a hot mess up here right now. But what these are different shared folders I've created with different groups, just to show how to share to use a shared folder. I'm almost wondering if this wouldn't work really well as like a module 1 shared folder, module 2, module 3, module 4, because you could do that for algebra only. You could do that for geometry. So that might be able to work, but you have to have a particular title. So I'm going to go to my account settings and see how I have an admin role here. Your account administrator can easily turn on additional roles for as many teachers as they would like. And if you have the role of the curriculum administrator, that's the name of it, curriculum administrator, you can now go into assessments. And through assessments, you would just choose your course. So we'll say, where's Reveal? It's in here. So let's say it's Reveal Algebra 1. And now you would be able to create a new test bank, you name it, and then you can go in and drop tests in. And based upon your sharing conditions, is it just your building? Is it the entire district? Then you will be able to create a shared folder that you can share now assignments with anybody. One little note on that is that you first need to drop your assignment into that folder, then you can customize it. Anything you customize then is shared with everybody that has access to that folder.
Question. This
Go
is
for it.
Karen McConnell at the middle school.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. So I wasn't able to get the algebra exam.
You weren't able to get what? Can you repeat that?
The algebra one is in high school.
You weren't able to get Algebra 1 at the high school?
I teach at the middle school,
Yes.
and I couldn't use the shared exam.
So then that goes into organization, right? They haven't shared it with the middle school. It might be that it was shared with everyone except like within the high school. It just needs, excuse me, to stretch down to the middle school then.
How?
That goes into the organization, like the account administrator just needs to be able to give, you know, that shared, whoever's creating that shared folder, access to both middle school and high school.
I guess we're still needing to go down even more steps than that, because I know Karen has access to middle school and high school. I guess
So that, I mean, who's the account administrator? Like the overall, that has access to teachers and students.
well, I'm assuming that's myself. I'm not sure if anybody else does or not.
I mean, usually it's like a curriculum director or someone like that. And so that person is in charge of like giving you access to create a shared folder, right? Or to give you the account, the curriculum administrator access. They're the person that would have to turn on and designate the schools who that person's going to have access to share information with. The best I can do is to give like a PDF on that. And so anytime you have questions too about these, you can go to help. Help takes you over to our digital technical support. Curriculum, administrator, user guides. And so like, then it just gives you a guide. This is where you can find guides. Not that you would know the name, but if you were able to get some support on the names, then it walks through like what you're able to do, how you turn those things on.
Because I guess that's what I'm saying. Karen and David both have access to middle school and high school. That's why I guess I'm not sure how they can get these folders.
I mean, that's where I've got to say I apologize. I don't know. I don't have access to go into your district. I have access to be able to teach all about these products, but I don't have access to go into your district to see who is the account person. That's the question then for your sales rep. So I can send her a text so she can jump in.
At the top of my page, I do have high school, but if it's on that, I have nothing. When I go to middle school, I get everything, just not high school.
Okay.
I don't have my organization.
This is a pretty technical topic. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to understand, and I can't show you the account administrator view, so I apologize about that. But I mean, what we're getting into isn't something you can fix. It's something your account administrator has to fix. So if they're not here, I mean, we're spinning our wheels a little bit.
I guess I am here, and that's why I'm trying to ask questions.
Okay, so what is the question then?
I'm trying to help Karen, and I don't know how to help Karen. Get access to the high school algebra test that was created.
All right, so you would need to share your screen and share your screen. Let me check something else, because I might be able to send you something right now that could help you out with that. How to set up roles. Admin, how to manage users. Create accounts and add roles. There we go. All right, copy. Back here. Chat. All right, so I'm putting into chat the function of how to set up roles. I think that's some great guidance there. Let me know if that helps. I've got a text to Carolyn Larrick because I think that she would be able to help on the side with that as well.
Right, and like I said, I don't want this to dominate the conversation. When I go into Karen's roles, she has a middle school organizational administrator access, and she also has the role as a teacher at the high school.
So is the shared folder shared with her? So like when I go in and I look to share a folder.
And that's where I guess I need somebody else's help because I don't even see shared folders.
You wouldn't, yeah, the people who set those up are going to see their shared folder.
Okay.
So let me just say.
They told me to go to my organization or something like that, but that doesn't show up on my screen.
All right, so give me 1 second. Let me go back and share real quick. Two. Share. Okay. So if I have created my blank folder because that's something I would want to delete. But when I go in here, I can now share this. When I share, it's going to give you certain schools that you're going to share with. Mine's going to say states, just because it's set up for McGraw-Hill. So if you select high school and middle school, now, Karen, you should be able to get those resources. Just because you're in the high school, I don't know or believe it that, because it goes into schools potentially is what I'm thinking. That's something that we'll have to look into.
Hey, this is Dave. This is Dave Max. I just want to echo whatever Karen's saying applies to me as well, because I also teach at the middle school, and I'm not getting anything.
Yeah, so I think it's the same thing. It's just whoever's sharing isn't sharing with the middle school; they're just sharing with the high school. So again, do we know who's creating the assignments for that folder? Because if they are, it would just be going in to share. Once you have your folder created, share, and make sure that you've checked both buildings. And that should alleviate the problem. So then you're going to be able to see that, whatever it might be, like a algebra shared folder or whatever. Does that make sense?
Was Jackie the one that did the exam?
So we can, I mean, there's going to be just some troubleshooting to figure out who has access, who's created the that folder, and then them just giving more people access to that folder, so that way they're sharing with the middle school teachers as well. So what we can do is move on to some other questions if you have other questions.
Let me just, I will look into that. I think in this room we have the person that made that initial assessment here. We're going to share that order. We only have the option.
Then that person might only have access to the high school, so we'd have to open up the organization further. So Kathy, I believe that would be you. If you can check on that person to see if they have access to both components of the organization. So who is that person who created the folder? Just so Kathy knows.
Jackie Lamaski is here.
Okay, I'm working on it.
Perfect. Thanks, Kathy. I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
There is not a way to share that presentation right now with other teachers. The developers, their justification of that is just that, each class is different needs, different learners. So that's why. So they turn things on, trying to make it easy, but that's their stance then when they did that originally. It's a question we've asked about and we've said people would like. So what I can do is put that in as a product enhancement and just say, in a conversation, customer would like to be able to share resources between, or be able to share presentations. Is this on the pathway? Yeah, good idea. Thank you.
And we can assign it for our class. Edit that and do that.
You kind of cut out the end. What was the end of that question? So when you go to edit an assignment that's been pre-created, what are you asking?
It says anyway, or you assign it to the class and then you edit something.
So when you're saying when you have an assignment ready, right? So we'll just pick any of these, and then you go in and you want to edit like a portion of this. Is there something in particular? I know. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Are you saying that functionality is not working right now? Okay. So I'm wondering if it's creating, because like when we share with Google Classroom, it creates a link to the assignment. If then when we edit, like it's really a link, and so then when you edit or make those changes, right, like that's not the link that's there. So I'm just wondering of like functionality of the platform. So I'll ask that question and see what feedback we get, to be able to go and see what they have to say. So you can edit questions, name, etc. Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Assessment. So you can create whatever you want. And then when you go in, I know that you can print, but it does print in PDF. I haven't seen it export outside of PDF. So what I've seen the other districts use is Kami to be able to write right on the PDF. Is there Kami, C-A-M-I or K-A-M-I? My kids use it at their school, so I've seen that as well.
I guess how and also the
Okay. Is there, I mean, are students just not able to do it digitally? Is that part of the problem, or? sense. So you're saying the PDF version's not printer friendly, so it's a bunch of pages. Because that's where, you know, I mean, normally we'll jump in and this is where we would edit an assignment. And if we had to assign it, you know, via PDF, then this is the way we would do it. So I'll ask if they're looking at a more print-friendly version moving forward. And then I guess on top of that too, are we looking to export in anything other than PDF? Becomes a question. Those are good questions. All right.
How can you just see this assignment?
If you can repeat that again, how can students see?
So I find how can you get that?
All right, so it's okay. So what I'm hearing you ask, it's garbled on your side, and maybe that's my speaker. So I'm trying to pick this up as best as I can. I apologize if I ask you to repeat. What you're asking is, let's say you assign a Word doc. How do we get students to submit it and you give feedback? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna. So if you gone to assignments and then gone right up here, add assignments, and make it a submission assignment. So when I do that, I can add a document, right, from my computer or from my Google Drive, which will allow me to push out like a Word doc, right, and then students could fill it in and they could send it back to me. So I could title it, I could put the directions, and then this allows me to see that document, to grade that document. It's a different form of the way we would assign things. If you ever assign in a lesson, so it doesn't really matter which lesson I'm in, but let's say we're in Reflect and Practice, and you assign this Word doc, it's the same type of idea, requiring students to submit a file. So this is a submission assignment. So you totally have access to be able to say, I've got my own problems I want to push out to students for them to practice with. The only difference is when you create that assignment, you're going to go to add assignment and make it a submission assignment. Does that answer your question, or am I just not hearing you correct?
I want them to look at it again and go make corrections. What you do
I'm not entirely certain. It's a good question. So, all right. Let me try something really quick. Practice. Just practice. Complete. Add. File.
I need more information. It was just like, well, this was going to do this. I need more detailed stuff. Like, that's why you get paid all this stuff.
Hit attach there and then go to continue. Okay, so we have that. two things there to take one off. Sure, that would be one way, but we'll grade it, put it at 5 points. Practice not started, view. Here it is. I can upload at a link entered text. So here are my answers. Continue. Submit. Confirm. I'm just going to refresh. Sorry, it's a question I've never had before, so I'm just trying to troubleshoot with you to see what that answer is. Reopen the assignment. Reopen. Oh, I see. I just reopened it. Okay, so then in terms of feedback, right here you could put a note for the student. I mean, here's your score, here's your note. In terms of pass back, I'm not certain. You know, I guess I wonder about using like a Google form. So therefore, you know, your notes or your feedback went automatically back to the student. Because you can upload from your Google folder. I would be happy to play with it some more and have some time to think about that question. That's a really good one. It's just not one that I've heard before. So I'm curious about it. As of right now, though, I mean, you can put the score in. You'll be able to put notes in for the student. But in terms of like, I've graded it, now I want to push it back. I'm not certain about that element yet. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I tried to be a sign like we the and then I would reflect the practice in the third option that one document.
Yep. So you're trying to give them back the Word docs specifically? Okay. Corrections. I have to ask a question because I'm not certain how you pass that back through the system. I know there's ways for you to view it, give a score, provide feedback, but that brings up a really interesting point. How do we do the corrections and pass it back? Sure am.
Okay, so an error in
So is it in an assessment that you're finding the error? I'm sorry, it was just hard to hear.
So the process editing or past assessments, there isn't a mistake, where's the best place to take that you?
Sure. So if there's ever a mistake, then I would, and you want to sign right away, I would go into the assignment. Let's say it's here, edit, and then I would fix it for myself. What you can always do is like screenshot or say question, 1 or 2 on reason to apply for lesson 2.5 is incorrect. I would shoot those over to your sales rep, Carolyn Larrick, and then she can let our product team know and they'll update it. It usually takes a few days and then they'll be updated on the digital platform. If it's something you want to sign right away, I would make that change immediately then.
So let's say I'm needing to sign and another teacher saw that, has that assignment, if that other teacher changes the answer, the only change matter, I change it as the sharer, it'll change it for everybody.
If you change it as the sharer, it'll change for everyone. If they change it on their own, they're only changing it for themselves. And that's just the functionality of like the share folder, right? It's like the sharer has to make the changes for it to be corrected for everyone. Does that answer your question okay? Cool. Sort of. You're closer, it helps.
Oh, well, I'm like, on this. Okay, here we go. We will be able to see an individual student's progress, and we know where to find that in the report. But it doesn't say when they complete assignment. They just say how much they got correct. They could do assignment 10%, but it doesn't say they actually submitted or completed it. Is there another way to figure out if they complete assignment instead of going individually look at every assignment?
Let me check real quick. Let's go to Gradebook. Gradebook review. The
It's going okay. There's
Let's go to grade 10. The only place that I usually see that on, I was just looking to see if it's, well, let me see if we choose one student individually. Assignments. Here we go. So when you're in Gradebook, if you choose an individual student, it'll give you their submission date for all the assignments. So I'll back up and show you like what I did to get there. All assignments, there we go. So I'm gonna leave there, go back to Gradebook. Here's the grade book for all students. If I want to see submission dates, here's a student. I'll click on just that individual student. It'll take a moment to load, and then I'll get the submission date. Is that what does that answer your question? Because then here's where I would see the submission date and then the due date. Submission being different than like the close date. And then that would be a little more efficient than having to go through assignments and look at each individual assignment.
Yeah, this is what we need is just so that we can actually see the assignment not to set. So that's what it does, because we have to keep going in to see that you're actually submitted.
Okay.
All right.
So are those the dates that they're supposed to be submitted, or one person actually submitted?
I'm, you know, like I'm looking, because some of these are past due. I'd have to play with that some more. I'm just looking to see if we see a difference. I'm looking here, right? Like, I don't ever set my time for like 3:34 or 3:37. So if they're doing that, this is submitted right at the time when they turn it in.
So then if you scroll back up.
Some of these are the past due. Yep, so this is saying past due, right? The student didn't do the assignment. But when I go down to what they did do, right down here, you're seeing it's at a very like specific time for these students. This one I may have pushed out for revisions, which is why it stayed the same.
Yeah, I think for me, I have that, let's just say that 2 hours for submission date, it's still like when it's supposed to be done. So it doesn't say past due for the school. But if I go, look, yeah, they did sign.
So I know that that was an issue previously. So now within the settings, when you create an assignment, there's the allow for late submission. And that's, from my understanding, that's supposed to start to alleviate that process. So a lot of what I've assigned was done previously before the late submission. Let me check one thing. Good questions. I will dig some more on that too.
No, I will say this, I feel bad for her. I feel like she was given a very unfair office. She wasn't allowed to. She couldn't even like, as far as like what she's wearing, like I heard like lots of designers wanting them like left her happy.
All right. Other questions? You guys have got some really good questions.
I don't know.
The next question is,
And then, could you repeat that one or come closer so I can hear you better?
yeah,
Hi.
there was a lockdown browser with the assessment so that they can have any other
Yeah. So right now there is no lockdown browser. I don't know if a publisher does. Usually lockdown browser is something that's embedded. So like when you do NWEA or the STAR, like for your interim assessments. So what teachers have been doing as a workaround is using the timer. So they've been putting a time limit on. So once I open the assignment, it becomes closed in like 1 hour or 30 minutes. you can choose between certain amounts of time that it's going to shut down on students if they open it up. And so since there isn't a lockdown, that's what they've done instead.
Yeah, we do that, but with the ways that
Yeah.
just having documents open and able to or trying to figure out there's any way to just lock. That won't be the possibility.
Yeah. One thing that I know people are waiting on, and I've heard from other districts they're waiting. They've heard Google's coming down with a way to lock down. Some have it with Apple, or they have it with some of their computer with their software systems, but it is not something right now that is embedded within the program. But it's something that's been asked previously, a really good question. And it's something we brought up to development as well. But as of right now, that's the workaround, is to time that timing feature to help. I know it's not a perfect workaround. Students are savvy.
So I give my students access to,
Mm-hmm.
they can answer when they're doing their homework.
So you give them access to the e-solutions?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've had students come to me and say that multiple times when they look at the answer, it says one thing. And then when they go and click on the solution, the answer is something different.
I wonder, so I just wonder, let me go to e-solutions, if they just aren't sure where to look. This is my asking a question too, because your solution's going to give you the entire pathway. Answer's just going to be, like you understand, and I don't need to explain it to you. So when I do this, and I might have picked a bad example, but solution, there's multiple things here. Answer, I'm only going to get one. So I'm wondering if they're looking at the wrong part, potentially. Or is it that this is different than the final solution?
I think that.
Do we know that, or are we thinking? I mean, if you know it, let me know which ones are not working, and I'll send that over and say, hey, we need a fix on this, and this. And if so, I apologize. But if you let me know, or Carolyn Larry know, we'll.
I will, and she showed me one, and I don't remember the question.
Okay. Yeah, if you find something, it's our goal to always have it be right. Not to say a mistake can't happen here or there, but if you do find something, let us know. We want to fix that right away. Yeah, thank you.
I do have a question. When thinking from the practice day, the studies that I have but then when I get an assessment, they can just check where is that initial setup? Is there something that is just difficult?
I apologize. I didn't really catch what you were saying.
when I give, I'm in the practice phase.
Okay.
At the beginning of the year, I do three tries.
That's so much.
Yep.
And then when I get an assessment, they can number one.
Oh, she's saying when you're in assessment, you can only do one?
That's how I saw it at the beginning of the year. But I don't remember where I set that up.
So let me just see here. I want to go in and assign. One thing I wonder, are you going down to student settings to be able to see? Because usually if I go down here, I just click on this part and it's always giving me access to one try. The default is one.
I don't know if there's a different way to change the default. I can choose it every time, that's fine.
The default is always going to be the one try unless you want to open up for more. And that's just why that additional student settings are there, to give you the option. Just because, you know, we don't, it doesn't know if you want one try or multiple, so it gives you the opportunity to do that. So the default there, I mean, it's not broken. You didn't do anything wrong. You're doing a great job. It's just that this is the setup. And that's the way where you would go to give more tries or just one. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Wait, we're told. Yes, I can make it. Colton Band. Currently playing alto.
I right where we're at, I'll have a question. Like, listening to your question before we ask Alex.
But it needs pads, I think. So he took it, and I'm trying to find out the company's name. Did you by happen chance know the name of the company? Because they've had it for a while.
So we can go ahead and have one,
I'm going as far as looking at
Right.
how much it
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
how can we assign a specific topic to a student? Force them to work through a certain topic.
Sure. Log in. Log in on.
might make sense to you.
There we go. Select my class.
One of my staff members' daughter is in the gym.
All right. So when I get into my class, I can go over here to assignments.
But I guess they're doing gym. I forget the exact word, so I could be wrong.
Right here, plus new assignment. What do we want to do? Schedule knowledge check, homework, quiz, test, goal. Right? And so usually if it's just you want a topic, then it's like homework that you're assigning.
2 PE classes, not blocked.
And then right in here, Alex objectives, or do you want to change that to something else, like a standard? But if it's an Alex objective, then you just can go through. I have mine focused on like with the book integrated. So let's say we're in module 6 and we know that we're working within a certain lesson. And this is the topic I want to assign. And I can just drag that topic right over. And then that's how I will begin to, create the assignment right there. So course, allow for late submissions, right? There's all those things. Students can choose, do I have a grading scale? And that just goes with your gradebook set up and how you want to set up your gradebook. So those are the parts that are going to be there.
I don't get it.
And then you can hit save. Save that assignment. and then push that one out to our students. So now we have open.
I mean, the only way to do that
Ah.
unlimited way would be 2 sets of infos. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Here's my homework one.
that does make
So
sense.
no
Okay, we print, quick edit, don't need to. Reports are going to be right over here. So we can look down and look at the different students right in there, the dates they submit it and or the score. And it's really, for me, it's just assigned to this one student. Because I just have, I mean, I have a limited range of class of students in there, but here's my student right here that's been assigned to. So it's just going in and creating the assignment. Right, so you want to create a new one. If you want to duplicate because you created this in a different class, you can. But otherwise, just select homework. So it's based on the ALEKS objective or topic. Open it up. Do you have your book integrated, or are you looking at it by ALEKS objectives? Okay, so I'm just going, you know, for me, since it's set up by module, I could do that. We can change though. ALEKS objectives, I think, no, it's still going to go by module. View textbook TOC, ALEKS table of contents, we could try that. There we go. So now we're looking at the ALEKS table of contents, so by PySlice instead. So whatever the domain is going to be, whatever domain it's in, let's say equations and inequalities, now I would have
Well, you have
those
a
little
library
subheadings,
math
and I
user,
just have
which I
to
don't know if
figure out
that's
which
why
one
the
it's
echoing or
in
not.
and select that. So
There's
maybe
total
it's
8, I mean,
multi-step
Scott Will's
equations.
on.
Here's all the topics in multi-step equations.
Karen
If I
Larry,
just want this to
presenter,
focus on one
so-
question,
and
I
now
would just
can
carry that one question over.
McConnell over there.
Or I can just click add that way, right? Just click on it and click add. You've got the option. You want to see a sample of that, all you have to do is click on that magnifying glass and you can see a sample. But it's just right in here is where you would select those topics. Then you get some more like assignment details, right? How many attempts do you want at the question? How many attempts do you want at the assignment? Retake options. So then you go with the rest of your assignment details. Does that help answer your question okay? Or is there something different that you're asking? What was that?
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Has everybody been using ALEKS, or is there some background understanding on like reports or anything that you have questions about?
Oh, he's asking, so if someone ends up in quarantine and they don't get started on the test or they don't take a test during the window, what happens? Yeah, they don't test and you take a hit. Yeah, you do. Participation in your score.
Is there some different review questions that you have questions about? You guys have some real technical ones, which are great. Do you have other ones that are broader or just about the program specific? You really dug into the program. I'm impressed.
I think it will. I think the teacher's safe regarding value added data. Right.
The different reports in ALEKS or resources, did you say? Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So when we go to the reports tab, let me do this. Let me sign in real quick. I'm gonna go through a different account. out. I'm just going to go through the free trial here, just so that way we get better mock data. Okay, so I'm just going to select a course for us to look at. So we'll look at Middle School Math Course 3. When we open this up, first report I'm going to jump into is the PI report. This is probably one that's, that we're used to seeing because this is the student report. At the top, it's going to give you class summary, right? So as a class, where are we with whole number and integers, or graphs and graphs, functions, and sequences? And then at the right, it's saying top ready to learn topics. So these are the topics in each piece of the pie that you have the most students ready to learn. If I go off of like a piece of the pie, then it's saying overall, these are the most ready to learn topics. Okay? Progress for my whole class. I think the real power of this comes below when we look at the current progress of the class. I can see each pie piece, which I'll just call domain, right? So let's pick a domain where we don't have as much progress. So I suspect this would be similar to what we could see now. The pieces that are going to have some of those topics that are easier for us to understand are going to be fuller. And the topics that we're going to teach maybe later in the year that students struggle with, we haven't gotten to, are going to be quite a bit less. So if I click on any of those topics, we'll pick exponents, polynomials, and radicals. And so what we'll see is we'll see clusters, and then those topics below. Right? You can see, so then the cool part in here is seeing progress, remaining, ready to learn, and attempted not learned. So I mean, obviously students are doing really well here. They're doing very well on introduction to the product rule of exponents. When we go down to something understanding power rules of exponents, you can see, right, this progress is telling me right here that these students, so there's 12 out of my 26 students that have mastered this topic, right? They've learned it, they've mastered it. This 54%, or 14 out of the 26 students, they have not yet learned this topic, right? But I get some additional information about these 14 students. I see that of these, 14, 6 of them are ready to learn it, meaning it is in their carousel for what they're ready to learn in terms of upcoming content. So these 6 have it in their upcoming content, so at some time they should be interacting with this topic. When you see attempted and not yet learned, like you do here, that's just saying, hey, these students have tried the topic, they just didn't learn it yet. So I look at this is pretty cool information and data I can collect before I teach a module, right? So I'm seeing what are the major topics that I will be introducing, and how well are my students doing? Where are they doing really well? Where are they having some difficulties? So that's where I like to see this, so I know the names of the students who this is really going to be brand new learning for, and those that may already have a pretty good idea. So that's where I look at this PI report. Next one that's really popular. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you were
Yep. So that would be these students that aren't here, right? So like, I use this as an example. None of these students have attempted it yet. So all of these 14 students have not yet even attempted this particular topic. So this is brand new for all of these students, because it's not even, I mean, it's in the learning path for 6 of them. and you could, start to filter out which ones it is. But for the 14, for the other 8 in here, it's not even in their learning path, meaning they need other prerequisites that they need to master that are in their learning path before this is going to come into this topic's going to be in their learning pathway.
Yeah, I got stuck.
So if there's nobody who's attempted and learned it, it means none of these students in this group have even tried it. And all it's saying is they could attempt it because it's in their learning path. Does that make more sense? Perfect. Yes. All right, so if I go back to reports and go to progress now.
Well, the number 12 that answers above, they're the ones that have the strongest representation of the at-risk.
And so progress report is like big picture, right? This is showing, and a lot of this is just overall progress students are making.
The numbers that we
So you'll see student names,
of the 82 kids that aren't
total time,
graduate,
whenever they logged
break it
in
down
last,
by-
the start of their last knowledge check,
I mean, that's what he's looking at.
and then when they finished it, like the date they started and when they finished it. What we're looking at in the performance is overall, right? This student has mastered 68, and it looks like we're 68% of the topics for this course. And right now, this 5% is saying that of the topics that they're of what's been in their learning carousel, they have learned 5% more. So this is what they'll be assessed on the next time they have their knowledge check, to see if what they've learned can go into their mastered. So right now, if I continue over, it's saying, since that last knowledge check, they've learned 23 topics, they've spent 4 hours and 45 minutes analysis. So this student's progressing pretty well at 4.8 topics learned per hour. Our goal is for this to be about 3 to 6 topics per hour. Right? That's pretty standard. So to take a slightly different view on this, I like to look at the very last report, which is detailed progress history. Now you'd look at this not right away in the school year. You would look at this in the middle as you're moving through it. And to me, it's showing growth over time, right? Where did the student start? So at the beginning of the year, they knew 31% of the content. They learned 8%. Of that 8%, right, you could see that they only mastered, or 6% of that was mastered to go to 37%. So whatever wasn't mastered went back into what they had to learn. So over time, I can see how much they're growing in terms of percentage from knowledge check to knowledge check. I can also see how much they are mastering and retaining, or learning, and then that going into the mastery means how much they're retaining from knowledge check to knowledge check. And to me, that's a great indicator of seeing student growth over time, right? What's going on? Why aren't they learning as much? So like with this one, it's not really the amount of time that they needed, right? 9 topics, 3 hours. So that probably means that there was a triggered knowledge check. We wanted to push one. Maybe it's the end of the semester or something like that. Who knows? Or we're leaving to go on vacation for a while. So these are really cool things to be able to look at to get a better view of how is the student growing, or are they staying stagnant.
At-risk, not
And so this is like that growth over time.
So early interventions need to be.
I'll pause. Questions about these?
Or so.
Yeah, on that one, so basically, the 31 were scrolled down to the bottom of Earl.
Right here?
He started at 31%, yeah.
And then learned,
And then
and then from,
grew up to 68%.
yes, over time grew all the way up to 68%. So it's more something you use after students have had a few opportunities to engage with a knowledge check. And knowledge checks are automatically triggered when students meet 2 criteria: 20 topics learned and 5 hours in the program. So it doesn't mean it's triggered at 20 or 5, it's 20 hours, or 20 topics, 20 hours, 20 topics in 5 hours. So that could mean, right, that like somebody's doing really well. Like we'll say David's really progressing well. David's got 40 topics learned before he hits his 5 hours. So then out of those 40 topics, that's what he's going to be assessed on to see how many of those topics now go from learned to mastered and how many remain in his learning carousel because he hasn't shown mastery of those topics.
Yes.
How long should a typical progress knowledge check take? Good question.
So right in here, you get a good idea, right? Like you're seeing, and I'd say 30 minutes is a little lower, but somewhere between 30 and probably 45 minutes is going to be typical. When students do their initial, you're probably looking at 40 to maybe an hour because there's a few more questions. But I would say about 30 minutes, maybe to 45, that'd be the long side. You know, depending on how hard the student's working, how involved the content is, that's a pretty typical range.
And then you can schedule, have them take a progress check.
Yep, so if I go back here to assignments, I want to add an assignment. Right here, you could schedule a knowledge check for students. So you can make that choice. You can say, I'm going to push a knowledge check out. You know, maybe we're leaving on winter break, whatever, right? I want to see how well students are doing. This is one way you could do that.
Students with disabilities are at risk not to graduate.
This is where you-
I shouldn't say one way. This is the way I know how to do it. Go ahead, you got a question?
But
Time.
Well, it's going to be triggered. If you push this out, you know, then you're pushing out to all your students, it's going to be based on what they've learned already, right? Since their last knowledge check. Otherwise, the only other way I know to schedule them is if you put in due dates and you integrate the textbook. That's the place, or you set up and design a specific course and you do due dates. You can schedule a knowledge check as like a summative assessment over like a chapter. So that would be another way that you could use a knowledge check and schedule that out.
Okay, they are at risk not to graduate, so early intervention will need to be implemented. I don't know what that was, but okay.
All right, so then next report, this is the one that you use the most often. That's time and topic. So you can play with the display to see like how much the date range you're looking for.
So your LPD.
But then when you come down below, you'll see all of your students, right? You can scroll up and down, left and right based upon the date range. And so what you're seeing, you know, first two, just total time, last login, and then total time for the date range that students have been in ALEKS. When you go to each individual day, you'll see, you know, the number of minutes that they were logged in. If you see like this one right here, it's got that blue triangle in the upper right-hand corner. That just means on that specific date that that student took a knowledge check on, or they had a knowledge check that day. That's why there's 0 and 0. If we look at the next day, we can see the student was in 29 minutes, and there's a 3 and a 3. So they attempted 3 topics and learned 3 topics, right? The next day they were in for an hour. They learned 4 topics and they attempted 5 topics, right? So you can see how well the student did on that for each day. So like this Nicole, on this date here, she learned 1 topic but attempted 4. That doesn't seem too great. So if I want to see why and what that student attempted, I can just click on their name. You'll see like a bar graphs pop up with the date range. So I know that they learned 1, attempted and didn't learn the 3. So learned 1, attempted a 4, right? So this is, and if I want to gain more detail, all I have to do is click on this bar. And now I'll see the topic they attempted, how many attempts they made, right? Obviously incorrect and correct attempts. And if I want to get any additional information, like I want to see what they selected, all I have to do is left click on any of those tabs or those checks, or the X's. It'll give me the answer that the student provided, the correct answer, and it'll also show the question that the student attempted. And that's true for any of these that you would click on. Now, I'm in a free trial, that's why it's saying there isn't an answer, but if you go to any of your students, you'll see the answer that they put in, correct answer, and the question they attempted. You also get to see, like right here, if they triggered an explanation. So if they get 3 wrong in a row, an explanation's triggered, right? So you'll be able to see if they triggered it. It'll be blue if they access the explanation. So now you get to see the actual explanation that they viewed. So you can see what it was that they were interacting with in terms of examples, things like that. The other part I like here is you can see how much time did they spend on the topic that maybe they learned or didn't learn. Obviously, they know this. They've got some understanding of using numerical methods, right here, for square root to the nearest 10th. They just could use a quick intervention, right? They're showing that they had some success. They just could use like a 2 or 3 minute check-in. Hey, I looked at your answers. I noticed. Here's what you were doing wrong. Let me show you how you do this, right? Usually with that check-in, a student can come back and try it, and they usually have a pretty good idea. It's just a misconception they have. Whereas, there's an example here. Let me check here. Like this one here, word problems with multiplication, right? They have no idea. They don't need a quick intervention. This is something that they need some instruction about. Same with similar right triangles, right? Boom, boom, boom. 4 tries, they're out. They didn't spend a ton of time, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. They just didn't know it, so they left that topic. So I like being able to see what you can learn from your students. It's not like it's hard to go through every student each day, but if you take a look at some of the data and see who's growing quickly, great. Check in with them periodically. Those students that are struggling, they're at that 3 or under topics learned per minute. This can give you a view as to where they're having some success or they need some additional support.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'll pause. Questions
All
about
day.
the time on topic report?
I find it interesting that this could be the topic that's regurgitated over and over and over again up until like 10 o'clock tonight. I mean, it's, I mean, and some things were like that were live happening and live on target, and then I go the repeating of things that education
I'll
missed.
take that one as a no.
But I'm just trying to think of what can you replay again at 7 and 8 at 9. None of my regular shows are being
And
televised today.
I'm just going to, I don't have a great look over there. You know, all these other reports are good for purposes.
Well, there's
Those
some
are
that
the
on
big
now
3
that
though
are
that we
DVRing, I
typically
can't watch them.
focus on.
Oh. So like, okay, this is
So
Wednesday.
those are the 3 that I would
Wednesday's gonna
use
be
on a continual basis if
Chicago
I'm
Med,
teaching.
Chicago Fire, Chicago PD.
The other ones I think are going to be
And I
more
do.
specific, and there's going to be a different purpose behind those.
I
So
know, I'm
these are the
old-fashioned.
3 to jump into right
As my
away.
son would say, I don't watch regular
I think
TV.
you combine
Unless it's
these
being
reports with what
streamed,
you have
I'm
in
not
reveal,
watching it. I'm like,
really get a better idea of successes and struggles students are having.
yeah, I do.
So I'll pause and see questions or places where you may have or want to see something maybe within reveal. So you have a pretty good idea of where you've already been able to explore. You've got a lot of great questions there. What additional questions do you have? Where might I be able to share some information about
And that is
reveal?
my husband, and like we have even taped the latest Hallmark movie that's come out. I know.
My mom likes them, but not. He's the one that likes them.
My Brett is yeah, Brett is obsessed, and like we have it taped and watched. I'm just like, okay. Although you have to throw in every once in a while the
Well, again, Carolyn and I will work to answer all those
4 and
questions
5.
or
You
get
got
an answer
Knight
and see
Rider and Chip.
if they're on a pathway or not. So I'm not saying we're going to be able to get a direct answer. We might get something that's just, you know, we see it. It's something that we're looking at in the future. Hopefully we get something more concrete than that. But some of these are great questions. I just don't know where academic or where our development team is with some of those ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, it's not that we're actually, it's on, but it's not that it's being watched.
Could I check back in on that?
So
Most
do me a
pictures,
favor,
like,
just
like,
if you don't mind,
like
if
what's
you
gonna
throw
happen
your
next, like,
throw your
like
email
we
in the
didn't know he
chat,
was gonna rock that
and
far.
then
Didn't know that either.
what I may do as well, and I know
Yeah.
Carolyn, at least she was on the line, what I may do to try to expedite some of this process, if you're okay with it, is have the academic design group even contact you about certain questions that you had, because sometimes you're like, I want to hear from a customer. I want to know why they want this. I'm like, I can tell you that. So, no, I mean, I love it because what you're saying, I think makes a lot of sense. And so I think if I'm saying it and you plus, your colleagues are saying it, hopefully something would get done faster as opposed to waiting on this longer. So if you're okay with that, that's something that I'll do and say they would appreciate if you'd reach out directly to help answer some of the questions as well. And so then therefore you can hear some of what they have to say. And then that way we're both attacking it from my end and from your end. Because I'd love it if some of these things were addressed.
Yes, that sounds great.
Perfect. So let me just repeat the questions that I have. Make sure that you're on board with what I have. And if there's anything else, I'll just send a follow-up email, so that way you have mine. And then if you do come up with some additional questions, you can share them with me. And I'll CC Carolyn on that email so that way we can all triangulate our information and make sure we're on the same page. And I can always include Kathy on there as well, just to make sure she's in the loop and knows what's being said. So I have a shared presentation, right? Our being able to share presentations is something that's going to be really important. And that's not just from class to class, it's also with colleagues. My folder or my assessments, adding in folders there. Being able to have further editing rights once an assignment's created. Sorry, I'm just adding a few more notes. Okay. PDF is not printer friendly. How can we do that? And then is there plans to be able to export in anything besides PDF in the upcoming future? How do we pass back a document that's submitted into us so that way we can give students feedback, showing them what questions they got right or wrong, so on and so forth in terms of what we want feedback there. And then I'm going to ask for further questions about the submission. I do believe that gradebook's going to show you the date it was submitted. But you're right, like when somebody was late, for my own clarity, I want to know, what are we seeing? Are we just seeing the close date of the assignment, or will we see the late submission date? Is that last one correct? Perfect. What was that?
If they see the submit button, some of them just leave it in progress.
Yes. Okay. Will we see slate submit date? And then no submission. Okay. Can I ask you a follow-up question then? Is there a feature or is there features that aren't available that you might want to see on the platform? Yes, you did say that. Good point. Touche. Got it.
Maybe like a way to share in an easier format, maybe not have to be in the administrative mode.
So sharing becoming,
And that's like, I'm just with the teacher to share that.
so sharing being more efficient, right? Perfect. Now, I will give you an FYI. We've been hearing that that's supposed to be an upcoming fix or update on the platform. They said it would happen in January. So, I mean, that's just what's been said. I'm anxious to see if that happens. If it does, though, hopefully we'll be able to see that and it'll become a lot easier. But, so be on the lookout. There could be that function. What that looks like exactly, I don't know. They haven't shared that with us yet. But that's something that's been through that's been passed down to us, that they're looking at creating that and having that update in January. So I'm anxious to see. Yeah, well, and what that looks like, I don't know, but they said it's a lot easier than being curriculum administrator and then all these other roles. But again, I will believe it when I see it, right? That's the way I always take it.
Along with that, like they talked about editing after the line, like I said something about the rules might be different.
Oh, well, and I just made, my note on there is edit, right? Having further editing rights, so that way we don't have to just reassign the assignment. Perfect. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you think of anything else, let me know. Otherwise, if somebody has individual questions, I'm happy to take those. You want to slide your name into, if you don't mind putting your email into and maybe you did. Perfect. I see it. I got it. I'm just going to jot that down. Then, I appreciate your time. I'm happy to answer questions, after today, or do my best to answer them. If there's something that you don't feel I answered well enough, I'm happy to try to give it another stab. And apologize, it was just difficult to hear through the library, it looks like. So I apologize, I had to ask you to repeat yourself a few times.
No, thank you for putting up with that.
No problem.
Thank you for all your time today.
Yeah. I apologize. There's some I just couldn't answer. These are great questions. They're just, there's some of them are the first time I've heard them. So I like getting the questions and appreciate you guys taking the time to really dig in and help us dig in as well. So thank you. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, have a great day. Stay safe.